Hello, everybody, and welcome to the December 2021 podcast for paramedical personnel in Maryland. Hard to believe we're in December already and the year's coming to an end. Wow, who would have thought 2022 was coming? Anyway, remember to push that subscribe button right there above. It looks like a little bell. That way you'll be alerted the second a podcast pops up, and you can turn it on and watch it immediately. And also, hopefully, a like button. Let me know you liked it. That's how YouTube gives us recognition. YouTube keeps stats, and for us to keep doing our podcast, they want to see at least a fair number of people actually watching the podcast. So please click a like button and the subscribe button so that we can keep our podcast going. The winner for the November podcast, for those that aren't familiar with this concept, remember that we give a secret word out during the podcast, and if you email Becker at ppmems.com, my email, with the secret word, we give you a little present. Okay? What an apropos thing to have happen for this month. Get a little present. Okay. So be watching this podcast and listening carefully for the secret word. The winner last time was Marjorie Petrovic. She's coming in a couple days, and we got our little present waiting for her right here. We're closing in on the end of the year, and as such, remember that in order to do your monitors, your on-location monitors, stuff like that, you have to have all your equipment. That means adult, child, and infant. So all three mannequins. If you don't have all three mannequins, we'll shut the monitor down. Make sure that all your equipment's working. Don't wait till the day of and find out that your AED trainer is no longer working, or you don't have the pads, or it's missing batteries, or I can't tell you how many things we've run through with stuff like that. So make sure your mannequins have lungs in them. We had issues where they're trying to monitor the mannequin's chest isn't rising because they don't have lungs in the mannequin. So make sure your equipment's operating the way it's supposed to as you set your monitor up. Let's see, what else? Also remember that if we do have to reset that monitor, it's a $50 charge. And that money goes to pay the training center faculty person that's wasting a day because you weren't set up to do your class. Okay? Enough said about that. Coming up in 1/1/22, let Kathy know that you've been vaccinated. Remember, you got to be vaccinated to stay in a training center. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Get your shot. Remember to send your notification, and all you got to do is send an email to admin at ppmems.com and says, I am vaccinated. That's tough. You know, a lot of our folks already have sent us copies of their cards, and that's great. I mean, I have no problem with that. You don't necessarily have to give us a scanned copy of your card. Just let us know that, in fact, you have been vaccinated to stay in our training center. Back in my day, and by the way, I've got all three shots, but back in my day in the 6th grade, we did polio vaccines, and that was a little white sugar cube with a red dot on it. That was the vaccine. And the little nurse gave you a little white cup. You sucked down your sugar cube, and you were set to go. Because everybody doing that without many complaints, we literally did a number and reduced polio to virtually zip. So it is what it is. Enough said. I'll get off my soapbox. 20% off stocking inventory. Notice the word here is stocking inventory. The bottom line is we have to pay Maryland sales tax on every item sitting on the shelf. So every year you pay this inventory tax, which is kind of like a sales tax. It's not as much. It's not a 6%. But if something sits on the shelf for a couple of years, in many cases, there is no profit left on that item. So remember, our mannequins, we keep really close to the vest as far as our profit on those mannequins so that you will be able to get the equipment you need very inexpensively so you can teach your classes. So we really like to move these mannequins out of here, get them off the shelf and at your location. So remember, this is nothing by email. You got to physically come in the store, buy what's on the shelf, so we don't have to pay tax on it again for this year. Now, one of the things we've trying and doesn't seem to be working real well is a Facebook sale item. You know, we're using Facebook Marketplace because some of our instructors have retired, and when they retired, they left their mannequins back to us to try to sell for them. And so we've got some of the stuff on the Facebook Marketplace. It's being viewed, but I got a feeling the people that are looking at it really don't even understand what the letters CPR stand for. So this would be something really for instructors to see more and not everybody is on Facebook. So what we're going to probably do is we're looking to set up what I'm going to call a flea market on our company store. And that way, when you're on the company store to buy something, you can go into the flea market and see what we've got for sale there. Okay, and pretty much a lot of it will be items that we have left over here in the office, things from the warehouse, pretty much old mannequins that people are trying to get rid of. So it'll be a little bit of a mix of everything, but always something to check when you're in there. And during the day, you got nothing else to do, check out the PPM company store. See what's new in there. Kind of keep you up to speed with what's happening. One of the things that if it was already set up, we would have in there is the other day I found, going through one of the drawers here as we're kind of neating things up for the end of the year, an HP ink. It's an HP 920, and we've got black, we've got the cyan, we've got the magenta. I have no idea why we even have those, because none of our printers take HP 920. So if your printer takes HP 920, let me know. We may put that in the flea market, or if you let me know ahead of time, we'll give that ink to you if you got a use for it. Like I said, we have no use for it, and certainly you can't give that back to anybody. So there it is. Let me know. Okay, the secret word for this podcast. The secret word is Stevenson University. Seems like a strange password, doesn't it? Or secret word. Stevenson University. Why? Well, they are one of our groups that teach CPR and first aid through PPM on Stevenson University. And as such, we thought, we'll tip a hat to them and use them as our secret word for this podcast. So remember to contact me via my email, secret word Stevenson University, and we'll get a little present ready for you. Kind of neat. And this is certainly the month to have a present ready for you. Kind of falls right in line. Okay, the next item we're going to talk about is a thing called Mythbusters. There was a TV show like that too, something similar. But what we're after here is kind of the crazy myths, things we've heard in our first aid classes and our CPR classes that really have been spread through generations and are incorrect information. And the one I'm going to talk about first is butter on burns. And we've all heard those in our class, and we're teaching first aid, and we talk about first and secondary burns, and everybody's ready to run right there with a stick of butter and put the butter on the burn. So the question is why? And I have a theory as to why there's butter on burns. And again, just a theory, is the fact that literally people wanted to put the coldest thing they had in the house on the burn. So what would be the coldest thing they would find in their house? Well, they didn't have refrigeration like we have today. And even going back before the ice boxes, where you had a block of ice, there were things called spring houses. And spring houses where the brook or creek were running through, and the water was very cold. And that's where they kept their items to keep things cold. So if it wasn't kept extremely cold, you wouldn't have anything to even look like butter. So by using the spring house, they kept the butter looking like butter. And my imagination here runs wild, and I think that they probably wanted to put the coldest thing they had on the burn. That coldest thing would probably be the butter. And so that's my theory, as they stuck the coldest thing they had, and that being butter on the burn. Little did they know that they made that a whole bunch worse and not better. Okay? So that's my first little myth buster we're going to try to bust. So let me know. Send me some emails with some of the crazy things you've heard, and we'll bring that up at our next podcast. Closing dates and times coming up. December the 24th and 25th, we will be closed. For the most part, nobody really comes in during that time anyway, so we'll be closed. December the 31st and January 1st, we will be closed. So remember that 20% discount ends December the 30th, because the 31st will be closed, nobody here. So rush in and grab these things off the shelf. That's about it. That's pretty much everything for this podcast. I want to thank you for watching the podcast, and please be safe, take care, and get those vaccinations.